Hello, I am Zinfogel. I know, I know, it's been forever. I have no excuses. I am just a busy person. And I said I was going to try to do weekly discussion videos. I thought I could manage the pace. And I actually have unfinished scripts for a lot of units. For Gordy, for Melanie, for Fall Iris, for Holiday Jasmine. Unfortunately, once I had the time to record those scripts, the banners were about to leave, so they lost their purpose. So, new plan. There is no plan. I am just going to upload discussion videos when I can. So, let's get rolling. First up, we have Mallow and Appletun, seasonal dragon type support. So, Mallow draws inspiration from Sinnoh Brendan and Fall Alistair, in that she is a durability unit capable of debuffing. I think Mallow is great. She excels in Gauntlet. Before jumping into the nitty-gritty of it, I want to address the age-old question of, is this unit worth pulling? I don't like making decisions for others, but you people won't stop asking me that. Whatever. My concern is the fact that the metagame has plateaued. There is a unit for any function you can think of. In Mallow's case, I would argue she's not worth pulling because Sinnoh Brendan exists. Their primary functions overlap. Yes, Mallow buffs defense, yes, Mallow has infinite recovery, yes, Mallow can boost Cakewalk, yes, Mallow can flinch, all of which are functions outside of Brendan's scope. But to me, Sinnoh Brendan has more value because he has a better buffing kit. Luster Purge is more effective than Apple Acid, and he grants a special move up next. Top tier supports sometimes fail to provide a specific function, but they can cover for those niches through other means. I am addressing this because I have to make these reductive statements in order to answer people without writing an essay. This happened with New Year's Dawn. People were asking me what I thought about her. I said I don't like how her kit was structured even after we learned how extra special ghost damage works. And some people took it as me failing to see the worth of the unit. Yes, New Year's Dawn has a great nuke and incredible durability in Gauntlet, but Anniversary Lily's banner was right fucking there! Look, if you like the apple there, hey, knock yourself out. After all, Mallow is a rare Alolan support, which matters for extreme battles. What I want you to understand is that a lot of units from now on are going to fall under someone is umbrella. Otherwise, they become the new standard. My practical opinion is that Mallow's gems are better spent on a Sinnoh Brendan rerun. With that out of the way, I like how Mallow's kit is structured. Appletun's bulk is decent despite the low HP, especially after greeting Sterner stuff too. Direct Heal Plus is amazing. Mallow can use offensive setup, or she can enable strikers altogether, like OG Zinnia. Mallow's trainer move is basically Drake's trainer move, but it buffs +3 defense rather than +2. Drake always had this dichotomy where he's discouraged from buffing defense early in order to conserve his gauge recharge, and that makes him more vulnerable to damage in the short term. Mallow has the same issue. Also note the absence of special defense buffs on Mallow's kit. She's still a great tank, but she's susceptible to getting sniped by strong special moves. That said, Mallow's greatest asset is Apple Acid. It operates just like Sonia is Defense Crush 9. Apple Acid debuffs special defense by 1 stage. Its damage is insignificant, but the debuff improves your striker's offense. That's a great utility. Mallow always has something useful to do even if she runs out of buffs. Apple Acid is the fun part of Mallow's kit, but she's also got a 3-bar Dragon Pulse. Mallow buffs the party's offense well enough to the point that she can threaten on-type damage. However, Mallow's mediocre special attack and lack of multipliers hinder her from matching the more traditional hybrid supports like OG Misty or OG Jasmine. She's more comparable to Aaron. So, problem number 1 is that Mallow has a busy rotation. Dire Hero Plus and her trainer move tend to delay Apple Acid, which also delays Hype Up 9 at full investment. Problem number 2 is Mallow is a gauge recharge playstyle. If Fall Alistair taught me anything, is that MGRs can carry Anniversary Lily, but it can get awkward with 4 bars into K-Master mode. Calling back to Sinnoh Brendan, he adds free move next to the entire team, which makes it much easier to rotate the Luster Purge debuffs before your main attacks. Apple Acid doesn't have that luxury. Now, we have talked a lot about Mallow while disregarding her passives. Mallow is actually a pro at recovery. Team Fist Bomb 9 is insane. You know how Sinnoh Morty refuses to let his team die? Mallow is similar, albeit with a different conditional. She has to attack for the recovery. Midpoint Men 5 is a better Fear State 4 that activates at a safer threshold, and Initial Synchro Healing 2 heals the entire party by the equivalent of a potion the first time Mallow syncs. Mallow is bloated with so much recovery, she can play with the half ally HP option in 2K Master mode and not feel the difference. However, a downside to Mallow is that her recovery stems from passives, which have to follow procedures. Mallow has a hard time reacting to surprise damage. Traditional potion bots can rescue teammates with burst heals. Meanwhile, Mallow's party-wide recovery takes time. Mallow's options are slow in general. That's why she's much better suited for Gauntlet, because dragged out recovery works fine in that format. Although Initial Synchro Healing 2 tends to conflict with her 6-star EX. Usually you want to launch a 6-star EX support buff first thing, but if the party is at full health, you end up wasting the recovery. Overall, Mallow is solid, but you have to measure her limits when using her as your anchor. Infinite recovery versus no special defense buffs. Crit buffs versus no attack buffs. If Mallow could execute her buffs a little bit faster, this would be acceptable hurdles, but that's the reason people are holding out from pulling Mallow. That said, I am scripting this before Mallow releases, but I guarantee you, people are spamming Gauntlet solos as soon as she goes live. What she's good at, it's hard to top off. Now, Mallow is somewhat dependent on dupes. Her base kit is okay, but her meaningful utility comes at later stages. Her 1-5 grid is barren. 2-5 has a quick cure to counter flinches. Sterner Stuff 2 and Trash Tank 4 ensure Mallow's survival. Team Sync 9 activates whenever you sync, unlike Initial Synchro Healing. It's a good countermeasure for specific stages like Cresselia. Apple Acid Flabbergast 4 can enable Confusion Synergy and Fall Fighting. OG Karen and Summer Gloria are good partners because they appreciate crit support and Apple Acid debuffs. But 3-5 is where things get really interesting. There is Vigilance, which lets Mallow run Adrenaline 1 as a lucky skill guilt-free, albeit at a steep energy cost. Mallow's Vigilance is on a distant corner, so you're probably better off with the Vigilance lucky skill anyway. Revenge Boost 9 is nice, given how Mallow's kit is modeled after gauge recharges. Impervious is also a fantastic Gauntlet passive. More importantly, Mallow gains Hype Up 9, which buffs the party's special attack by 1 stage whether Mallow attacks with Apple Acid or Dragon Pulse. Hype Up 9 serves as gap fill for special strikers, and it improves Mallow's Dragon Pulse damage against Dragon Weak content. Speaking of Dragon Pulse, there is Dragon Pulse Staggering 4. Mallow can enable Harry. Notable beneficiaries include OG Blue and Lycia. Staggering also lets you fish for cheeky flinches in Champion Stadium. For example, you could have Mallow open the fight with a Dragon Pulse, and if she flinches successfully, you can squeeze a full round of combat, much like how you would play Sinnoh Lyra. The problem is that Mallow's Staggering is not nearly as spammy as, say, Aaron. Aaron's attack order has the innate MGR4 plus MGR9, so he can spam liberally. Mallow's Dragon Pulse is going to conflict with the gauge of your strikers. Trainer move Catalytic 9 accelerates gauge when Mallow uses her trainer move, so not only do you get the full gauge recharge, you hasten gauge, which is really nice when paired with strikers who buff speed, such as Barry. Speaking of Barry, Mallow also gains Apple Acid Trip Up 9. Yeah, this is nice for Latias, but Trip Up 9 grants unique utility at boosting Cakewalk or Hunter's Instinct. Notable beneficiaries include Barry, OG Raihan, and Getsis, who appreciate the speed debuffs as much as Hype Up 9. Shame the debuff is an AoE though, but what can we do? Lastly, there is Apple Acid MGR 9. It's a consistent source of gauge. This passive is borderline mandatory for Gauntlet, because Mallow tends to run out of steam after she spends her trainer move. Mallow is a little annoying to greet, but her champion stadium modes are straightforward. Typically you want a Catalytic Kick to improve Mallow's gauge situation. First, there is a Dragon Pulse staggering mode with Hype Up 9 to help special strikers. Remember, Mallow can queue Dragon Pulse last in a turn to fish for a flinch, a la Aaron. Then there is the Apple Acid mode with a choice of Trip Up 9 or Flabbergast 4 depending on the unit Mallow is supporting. For Gauntlet, I would recommend Apple Acid MGR 9 and Trash Tank 4. If you don't restrict Mallow to Hype Up 9, there are many grid configurations she can toy with. So yeah, Mallow has decent niches. Her Rion presence is a tad concerning, but she dominates Gauntlet. It's just a shame Sinus Brendan is so good, because he really makes you think twice about pulling supports with Mallow's structure. Up next, we have Elesa and Togetic, a seasonal flying type striker. DNA make a flying type striker who is not weird challenge. Impossible! So, Elesa is similar to Looker in that her performance is polarizing. She dominates flying weak content, elsewhere she falls flat on her face. Or does she? I have seen an inordinate amount of disdain for Elesa. I don't want to defend flying type strikers anymore, dude. I am so tired. Okay, let's paint a picture, shall we? 6-star EX Elesa has over 400 attack, a free 50% multiplier, another free 50% multiplier for her nuke, super effective up next on command, and soften up 1 for reliable nuking. This nuke is free. The only conditional is running Elesa on stages she is designed to beat. Mind you, this build I am showing here doesn't go for maximum PP. You have to sacrifice soften up 1 to push Elesa's nuke further. But I like reliable nukes, so let's keep it at that. What does this compare to? No, it's not made. Oh no, it's not Anniversary Steven either. It's Signasuriran. That Elesa grid with Super Power 3 and Super Effective Up Next matches Signasur Ethan without Shower Power 3, not Super Effective Up Next. Yeah, Ethan easily surpasses Elesa with the Holiday Jasmine or Signasur Chris, let alone off-type. But this was so bizarre to me because people were criticizing Elesa for her on-type performance. Elisa's nuke is so simple, she can afford a defense debuffer just to increase PP. And if your concern is fly, without super effective up next, it's comparable to a couple uses of Anniversary Lily's Moonblast, which is not weak. If the stage somehow survives Elisa's nuke, Fly can pick it off. And if your complaint is that you need 3-5 Elesa for her to work, no you don't. DNA literally said in their advertisements that Elesa is a good pair for dual strike team compositions, so she can serve as DPS for Kahili, who has a really good on-type nuke, so there you go. But Sin, you always say off-type is where you can truly measure strikers. Yeah, that's true. I will admit I perpetuated that mindset, but the reality is that 95% of the player base use strikers on type. Otherwise, they use the anniversary rats. What's my source? Look at stage replays. Very few people play off-type. It's mostly hardcore players chasing top meta. Then therefore, it's unfair to hold Elisa's off-type damage against her. And even then, off-type Elesa has play. Her flight sets are hilariously strong. The problem is that squeezing such showings is not easy. Much like Signature N, Elesa takes an experienced player to make the most out of her. With all that said, my practical advice is that Elesa is not worth pulling. OG Blue is free to play now, and Kahili is more than serviceable. Just wait for a Signature Ethan Rion or whatever. But damn, is Elesa a fun unit. So, Elisa's whole shtick is Fly, improving on what Nate attempted. Metronome is there, but it's divorced from the rest of her kit, so I'll go over its mechanics later. Ignoring things such as nuance targeting, I feel tutor moves have a couple big drawbacks. First of all, they do not advance the sync countdown on the attacking turn, which stunts your rotation. Second of all, they functionally cut down your DPS in half because you are attacking half of the time. As for advantages, tutor moves are great in Dual Strike given the lower gauge consumption. They also work well in PP stacking because you are staggering big attacks. Think about how Single Ethan is structured. Similar idea. And as for Fly specifically, it makes you enter a period of invulnerability where you dodge most sources of damage, save for random garbage like Hurricane or Thunder. The last time we saw a decent tutor move user was Signasuden. A lot of people weren't sold on his kit regardless, but Signasuden was important because DNA learned how to make tutor moves usable through him. Elisa's passives are crucial at remedying Fly. Elesa has a Super Countdown 9, which drops the sync countdown by 1 when she lands a super effective attack. This compensates for a turn you will lose for attacking with Fly otherwise. Elisa's full grid also has Glory Boost 9, which adds a physical and a special move next stack when she dodges an attack while enemies are targeting her. Notice Elesa has excellent bulk for a striker, so we can sniff the intent here. Fly lets Elesa double as a tank, which specifically activates Glory Boost 9 when she dodges an attack. This one physical move next stack fattens Elisa's Fly so much that under Flying Zone, it's not that far away from Signature N is zoneless free shock. Really, Fly's biggest obstacle is its limited move points, so you have to be precise. 3 Fly uses is fine for Flying Week Champion Stadium, doubly so if Elesa can execute her full nuke, but Fly is the key to off-type Elesa. Once you learn how to rotate Fly, Elesa can run double duty as a greedy DPS tank. The biggest issue with off-type Elesa is that she misses out on Super Countdown 9. Yes, but she can afford the ramping supports to compensate. Alternatively, you can remedy Fly turns by executing it as the last action of turn 3. The purpose is twofold. It maintains a sync countdown, and you can squeeze a sync move before Fly snaps to boost its damage. That also serves Elesa tanking modes because on turn 3, you are dodging center who hits the hardest. And if you set up the asteroids right, Elesa can deny a left and keep dodging center. Like I said, it's not easy, it's quite difficult for me to illustrate without an example, but as a player who has explored tutor moves, I don't see what's stopping Glory Boost and Fly from clearing off-type. Although, I wouldn't touch off-type Elesa without Anniversary Skyla. Skyla not only helps with PP from Flying Zone and Father theme skills, she can nuke for Elesa, and her staggering can void turns to spam Fly. Also, if Skyla procs Gobsmack, Confusion self-hits activate the Glory Boost 9 provided Elesa is tanking. Another notable Elesa teammate is Anniversary Raihan. Fly just skyrockets when aided by physical move next. Rion can compensate for off-type fly turns with Sandstorm Propulsion 9, and he can help Elesa with accuracy and evasion buffs. So, with that out of the way, let's go back to the kit. Elisa's trainer move is Flint's trainer move, but better. The special attack buffs are meant to improve Metronome. Elesa also has a Direct Heal Plus with a Sharp Entry 1 on the grid. This buffing kit is subpar for modern standards, but it works. Now, let's tackle the elephant in the room. I actually like a Metronome. We understand how Metronome works thanks to a Springborg. Basically, Metronome in this game calls 1 of 18 attacks, all of which correspond to a type. All of Metronome's options are trigger moves with good secondary effects. For example, Rock Slide and Dark Pulse have decent odds of flinching, which Elesa can double by creating Super Interference 1. And as the cherry on top, there is the ever so minuscule chance of rolling Fissure, which, if it lands, it instantly deletes an enemy. Metronome is also a great source of gauge. It executes a trigger move at a 1 bar of cost, and it also performs Metronome's own animation beforehand, so it stalls for gauge quite effectively. As for its issues, many of Metronome's options are inaccurate. Elesa has to grid the trainer move Precision 1 to improve Metronome's consistency. And as you'll know, Metronome is random. I know, stating the obvious, but you cannot force its hand into rolling a specific attack. With Super Power 5, Metronome Super Duper Effective 5, and Super Effective up next, Metronome will likely delete its target, but the odds are not in your favor. How are you going to back it up with a field effect? More often than not, Metronome acts as a cheap source of secondary damage. It's meant to complement the output of another striker. Elesa does have a Sprinter Status 9, which adds a physical and a special move next stack when Metronome is used. The fact of the matter is that Elisa's Metronome can accumulate PP stacks. If Metronome only rolls special moves, you could bid for physical stacks to strengthen Fly. Metronome is fun, but Fly is just more consistent in both damage and performance. So, 1-5 Elesa is whatever, although Fly accuracy plus 5 is nice. With all this Fly talk, I neglected to mention Fly is 95% accurate, so you have to grid this style or trainer move Precision 1 to fix that. 2-5 packs Critical Strike 1. Sharp Entry 1 is amazing for Direct Heal Plus users. It also pairs well with Direct Heal All Plus supports. Fly Mood Point Refresh 2 can potentially gain more Fly uses. Slippery Slope 9 buffs Elisa's evasion when she dodges an attack as the current target with Fly or otherwise, be it Confusion, Paralysis, or raw evasion buffs. Trainer move Precision 1 is really important for Metronome modes. Metronome for Tuirius 9 accumulates miscellaneous buffs, usually unhelpful. Super Interference 1 is handy because it doubles Metronome's procs. For example, Slush Bomb jumps to a 60% chance to poison, Dark Pulse jumps to a 40% chance to flinch, but Super Interference doesn't boost the chance for stat drops, such as from Psychic or Iron Tail. 3-5 has the Nuke, Double Down 5 and Super Preparation 9 complement Elisa's innate Superpower 5 for big on-type PP. Softenak 1 also guarantees Elesa crits the Nuke even if she only has +2 crit. The catch is that Softenak 1 is expensive, so Elesa has to chop off some of her nuking power for it. 3-5 is also where Elesa gains Gloating Boost 9, which is the best way to salvage her off-type at the cost of forcing her to tank, which is a fine trade-off when you consider Fly lets her dodge attacks to begin with. There is also Sync Quickening 3, which recharges 3 Fly MP when Elesa syncs, which lets her continue her flight chain. I think this is mostly useful for Gauntlet. In Champion Stadium, I feel that Elesa has the tools to finish stages in 3 fly uses or less, so, you know, Elesa Snook is already criticized for its power, so just using it for the raw utility, it's kind of questionable. There is a random quick tempo here, but Elisa's gauge is so efficient, I don't see practical applications for it. Lastly, Elesa gains a Metronome Super Duper Effective 5 and a Metronome Super Countdown 9 to reward on-type Metronome. On-type Elesa should do this. I think any unit with access to Soften Up 1 should go for it. You use both tries and delete the stage. This is as easy as flying weak sweeps get. Kinda crap elsewhere though. Off-type Elesa has to focus on well-timed flies. Similar playstyle to Big Blast Kahili, but the people who have touch off-type Big Blast are an anomaly, myself included, so make of that what you will. Lastly, there is the funny Metronome mode. Note that Elesa retains super effective up next until she rolls a super effective attack. And once that happens, all of Elisa's super effective multipliers collude for a nuclear bomb, especially if she accumulates threatening status stacks. So, Elesa is more than viable for on-type. I feel she is the kind of unit who is going to get shot on until someone showcases her properly. And after breaking down her script, I think I am convincing myself, but we'll see. And that's that for the Palentine Singpers. I've promised nothing regarding Sinnoh Lysander or the other units for this month. If I have time, great. If not, well, I'm sure other people will cover for those. Thank you for watching, take care, and I hope to see you another time.